Redline Logbook here for Danmachi's Development Abilities Part 1. For those of you who don't know, a development ability is an ability that you get when you level up. There's a possibility that you can be offered one or multiple. Either way, you can only have one. So you get another development ability, you gotta level up again. That's just how that works. The first development ability we're going to talk about is blacksmith. You can acquire this blacksmith at any point when you level up, but most people get it at level 2 because only those who are professional blacksmith ever end up acquiring this ability, so you want to get it as soon as possible. The reason why professional blacksmiths are the only people who ever get the option to get this ability is because just like skills, development abilities require certain parameters to meet, but development abilities are more straightforward. The blacksmithing ability just requires you blacksmithing constantly, and once you hit a certain number of hours after blacksmithing, once you level up, this development ability can be acquired. So as long as you're dedicated to your crafts and you're constantly working every day at blacksmithing, this is actually a very easy development ability to acquire. It has two major functions. Function 1, it allows you to add special properties to anything that you're crafting. For example, if you're designing a sword, if you want this sword primarily to be a cutting weapon, blacksmith will actually add more of a sharper edge to the sword. And if you want the sword to be a stabbing weapon, it will do the exact same, but for stabbing. Armor is the exact same way. It will actually increase the strength of the armor. Fortunately, this is Danmachi, and so this can easily be explained through stats. So, let's say you don't have the blacksmithing development ability, and another person does, and you both have a sword. Both of your swords were made with the exact same material, with the exact same techniques, and the exact same time and effort put into it. But, when these two swords collide, the one with the development ability, sword, will most likely cut through the person's sword who does not have the development ability. That's right, it won't shatter the other sword, it will cut through it, because it's just that much sharper. Also, unlike skills, development abilities have a leveling system that goes from I to S. There is no number system, so you don't actually know how much you're leveling up your development ability, other than when it changes from one letter to the next. There are two ways your development ability will increase in power. One, just naturally, if you continue to use it over and over again, and it just gets stronger on its own. And the second is if you level up again, it will automatically upgrade your development ability. Which means you can have another test with these swords between two people who both have the development ability smith, one being, let's say, an I, and the other being a D. The D would do the exact same thing, where it would cut through the I sword. And of course, this would go for all weapons and armor created. The better the development ability, the stronger the weapon and armor will be. The second advantage of having the smith development ability is that now you can craft magic swords. Wolf famously could craft magic swords at level 1, but that's because of his skill Crozo Blood, which is one of the reasons why he's not liked by the other blacksmiths, because they had to wait until they leveled up to be able to craft magic swords, and even then they weren't as strong as the Crozo Blood ones. But still, the ability to create magic swords is highly valued, and one of the most popular traits of a blacksmith. Also, if you're a member of the Hephaestus familia, which has most of the blacksmiths in Aurorio, once you get your development ability blacksmith, you then have the right to etch Hephaestus' name onto any of your weapons. This is important because Hephaestus weapons are a premium, and this basically helps you make money, which is important for more blacksmithing to improving your craft. Obviously, characters like Welf, Tsubaki, and pretty much every level 2 or above blacksmith in Aurorio or the world has the blacksmith development ability. Next development ability is abnormal resistance. You attain this development ability after you have been exposed to tons of poisoning. This usually happens to adventurers who are in the upper floors, who are in constant combat with purple moths, which spread poison through shedding their scales. The fertility of purple moth poison is very low. It's more of a numbing effect, which causes you to be sluggish, which then allows the weaker monsters in the upper floors to kill the level 1s there. And so it is extremely common for individuals who go from a level 1 to level 2 to have access to abnormal resistance. It is, without a doubt, the most common development ability in all of Aurorio. Basically, everyone has it, and the reason for that is the deeper you go into the dungeon, the more likely you're going to interact with more poisonous monsters and plants and such, and if you don't have this ability, you're probably going to die. Because the main function of abnormal resistance is in its name. It makes you resistant to abnormalities, these being poisons, plagues, spoiled food, mold, venoms, and basically anything that is meant to kill you without physically harming you. And as long as your development ability is able to make it to G, you're basically immune to almost anything out there. You'll basically never be sick again if you have a level G abnormal resistance. That doesn't mean once you hit G, you're immune to everything. Bell's abnormal resistance is G when he was stabbed by one of the Paluta's thorns, and it would have killed him if he didn't immediately stab that wound with a unicorn horn sword, purifying the poison. So once you hit the deep floors, the creatures there and their poisons and venoms is so powerful that even with a G development ability, it isn't going to matter. So basically, once you hit the deep floors, you either need to increase the stat of your development ability to above G, or carry antidotes for any type of poison that exists down there. As I said, this development ability is held by the majority of adventurers who are level 2 or above, because if you want to go deeper into the dungeon, you need resistance to poison. It's just that simple. Next up is the development ability of Mage. Mage can be acquired at level 2 or above, doesn't really matter. The requirements to get Mage are basically twofold. Either A, you gotta be born an elf, because they just automatically get it. That's just how powerful elves are in magic. Or B, you have to dedicate yourself to stunning magic. The sign that you have a mage development ability is that a magic circle will appear under your feet when you're casting any spell. And this has multiple effects on your magic. Effect 1, it increases the power of said spell. The power increases an entire level. What I mean by this is, let's use Bell's Firebolt as an example. Let's say a level 3 Bell shot off a Firebolt, and there ends up being a spellcaster who can also use Firebolt. Let's say they're level 2, but they have Mage. And so when they fire off, even though they're level 2, it's as strong as Bell's level 3 Firebolt. That is the power increase of a Mage development ability. This is one of the many reasons why mages and magic in general is considered the ace in the hole in Danmachi. The second thing that it does is it increases your range. So for example, for an attack spell, if the spell is close ranged, now it's mid-ranged. If it's mid-ranged, now it's long range. If it's long range, it's now very far range. Hadine's Lightning is the perfect example of this because it's the farthest reaching of all magics. It can hit a target on the other end of a battlefield with pinpoint accuracy. And of course, this would also apply to buffing your allies and also healing magic. The range just always increases. And the final benefit that having the mage development ability is, it regulates the amount of mind you use. Mind is what they call magic power in Danmachi. So with this development ability, you basically use just the amount of mind you need to cast this spell. You don't overtax yourself, which then causes you to run out of power too quickly and pass out. As for those who have the mage development ability, that's basically any person who's a backline spellcaster. I will say there is one exception to the rule, and that would be Armid. She does not have the mage development ability, but she does have a magic circle anyway, and basically has all the abilities of a mage. This is most likely because of a skill she has that allows her to have this development ability without actually having this development ability. What that skill is, I don't know. And I think I'm going to end it there. So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you enjoy more Danmachi and other things. Thank you and have a great day.